It's like Granny says, like the scariest or most dangerous ones are the ones that are hairy on the inside, but not on the
Mhm.
outside, We see that in the
Mhm.
wedding party scene.
Yeah.
And never trust a man whose eyebrows meet in the middle.
Yeah. Good advice for anybody.
Yeah. That unibrow.
Sorry to our unibrow listeners.
Hello and welcome to Camp Kaiju Monster Movie Podcast. We're your hosts, Matt Levine.
And Vincent Hannum.
And we are talking about all our favorite monster movies, the good, the bad, and the downright campy, and asking if they stand the test of time.
Traditional kaiju, creature features, space invaders, the supernatural, and everything in between. All strange beasts welcome here.
Camp Kaiju is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients, and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services, follow the Zach Pack on social media, and contact the Zach Pack for investment opportunities. Link in the show notes.
A young girl feels her soul awaken to the call of emotions she cannot name. This is the Twilight world, where half-forgotten memories of childhood lead into a fantastic realm.
Was it a wolf or a man you killed?
When I killed it, it was a wolf. It turned into a man.
Here, dreams become reality, and our darkest fantasies come true.
Those kind of wolves are hairy on the inside, and when they bite you, they drag you with them to hell.
Oh! Where did my daughter? Where did you come with my daughter?
She ran away! No!
They say the Prince of Darkness is a gentleman.
Gentlemen always keep their promises.
What have you done with my granddaughter?
Nothing she didn't want.
The Company of Wolves, where fairy tales end and nightmares begin. The Company of Wolves.
Vincent, how are you doing tonight?
So good. I unfortunately just killed a mouse in my house. I say unfortunate because I feel bad for the little guy, even though it is kind of creepy when you're alone in your basement in the dark and a mouse scurries across the floor. So sorry, little guy.
You don't want that. I would feel bad about it too, but they are not allowed in your house. That makes sense.
I found too many droppings too many times.
Yeah. We'll pour a little water out for our dearly departed rodent friend tonight.
Yeah. How are you, Matt? How are you, Naomi?
I was just going to say, welcome to Naomi. We have a guest star tonight.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for joining us. Naomi Osborn, friend of the pod. Welcome back. Sorry to interrupt. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's so nice to talk to you guys when it's still light outside. Like, I feel like every time we meet, it's always like in the winter or after trivia, and it's dark out. Like, I don't know. It's good. Summer is nice. It's feeling good.
Absolutely. The only thing I don't love about it is that sometimes if I'm trying to watch a movie at home, like I have a lot of sunlight that comes into my apartment, which is great. But like if it's 8 o'clock and like there's too much light on the screen, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to start a movie like at 11 o'clock tonight,
Yeah, it's true. You got to just set the tone right, get it all dialed in. I feel that for sure.
Yeah. The difficulties of being a movie lover, we have it rough.
Oh, yes. Well, I've watched movies in all circumstances. This year alone, I've watched over 350. I just crossed the 350 threshold. So I'm watching movies in every kind of scenario. There's nothing really regimented about it.
That's great. Yeah. A little envious, but I'm happy to hear that. Well, tonight we are talking about the movie The Company of Wolves by Neil Jordan. I'm really excited to talk about this one. We'll wait to get too much into it, but it's a weird one. It's a little bit on the artsy side, I guess, compared to some stuff that Camp Kaiju has featured, not compared to other stuff though. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It is almost as far away from the tone of Robot Jocks as we could get, which is a fun whiplash. I love that we can do this on this podcast. We cover a little bit of everything, and as it should be. We shouldn't put ourselves in cinematic boxes. This movie challenged me. It like I loved it, but like because it is maybe a little unorthodox in its storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
My challenge was, how do I critique this film? And I'll get into that, but that's where I'm coming at it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was excited to revisit it. I saw it a few years ago just randomly on Tubi. Like, when you're looking on Tubi and you see the weirdest stuff on there. So I just saw it randomly and it totally stuck with me. And I was excited that you guys invited me to this conversation. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it and share some of my own.
Totally.
Yeah.
This is a movie that I've wanted to see for a long time, and it's pretty close to what I expected. I knew it was going to be like not totally narrative and would be like a little bit surreal, have a lot of symbolism to it. So yeah, it'll be a fun conversation for sure.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of like a couple 70s movies that are sort of in that ilk. There's a movie called Picnic at Hanging Rock. It's an Australian, it kind of touches on some of the same themes. And then there's a Czech film called Valerie and Her Week of Wonders that also is kind of in this same vein. Those are both from the 70s, but I think that they live in the same place in my head. Labyrinth too, to some degree.
Yeah. And I feel like The Company of Wolves influenced Legend as well, the Ridley Scott movie, like kind of a, flipping some fairy tale kind of folklore on its head and like really gorgeous studio bound like sets and everything. So I sensed some overlap there as well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about the recent film Night Bitch with Amy Adams, because there's a scene, like there's a whole dream sequence. Well, I mean, the whole movie often is, but she's running with the pack, and the direction, the photography was it reminded me a lot of Night Bitch.
That's good to hear. I still have not seen that movie.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I saw it. I liked it. I love that comparison, actually. I didn't even think about that.
Well, before we get too much further, we'll take care of some nuts and bolts here. Again, just want to thank all of you for hanging out, friends. Please rate and review Camp Kaiju wherever you listen to the podcast. You can also send us listener comments at campkaiju@gmail.com or on our Instagram page at camp_kaiju. If you would like to be a featured voice on the show, leave us a voicemail at 612-470-2612, telling us about your favorite monster movies and memories. Also, please check out our website, campkaijupodcast.com, for more reviews and special content. Last but not least, also check out our merchandise at campkaiju.threadless.com. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/campkaiju for discounts, priority comments, and access to any live events. On that note, as usual, we want to thank all of our patrons out there. Jason, Beast Drool, aka Chris, the second Chris B, Sean, our anonymous patron, and Peggy. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Thank you. And since last time, I have to talk about, there was a special episode of Camp Kaiju. A woman named Beth Bredlaw. She is a master's student at the University of Indiana, and she reached out to me because she got the mayor of Bloomington, Indiana, to officially proclaim June 27th Godzilla Day in the city of Bloomington. And she partnered with the local historic cinema, and they screened Godzilla movies all week. Really awesome event. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty exciting. If you haven't checked out our recent episode on Godzilla Day, you can do so and let us know what you think of that. Robot Jocks, the aforementioned mech movie. Yeah, so some cool stuff since last time.
And the Jaws 50th anniversary, too.
Yeah, Jaws, right? 50 years. I'm excited about is Jaws at 50, the definitive story through National Geographic. So if you have Disney Plus, you can watch that. But that premiered July 10th. So that should already be out by this episode. I guess there's new behind-the-scenes footage. Steven Spielberg and others are speaking. So I'm looking forward to that one.
I'll definitely be checking that one out. That sounds so cool. Another newish release that's in the monster movie realm is 28 Years Later. Have either of you seen that yet?
I haven't.
I have not, but I think I might go this weekend to finally check it out. Yeah.
I'll be intrigued to hear what you think. I saw it and did not like it very much. I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of Danny Boyle in the world. He has like MTV, like one edit every half a second style that I'm
Yeah.
usually not totally into, but there's some good stuff about the movie for sure. I won't ruin anything for you, but I'll be excited to hear what you think.
But you're a big fan of the other two, right?
I like 28 Days Later, but I haven't seen it in like 15 years, a very long time. And watching 28 Years Later, I was like, if I rewatched the first one, would I like it as much? I don't know if I would, but I have not tried that out yet. And then the second one, 28 Weeks Later, I do like quite a bit, but that's a different director, so that might be partially why I like that one a little bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, the first two are good from what I remember, but it's been a long time.
All right.
Yeah, I just saw them recently for the first time. I've never been a big zombie person, just not my genre, but I like to be a part of buzz. Like I like to be a part of cultural moments. So I wanted to kind of watch them and catch up. So I'll see that third one, but I've been seeing so many mixed opinions on it. I'm very curious to decide for myself.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you'll find out when you watch the third one, it kind of sets up a new trilogy of movies as well. So there will be even more zombie movies on the way.
What are they going to call them?
I think it's 28 Years Later, Part 2, and then Part 3. So I guess this is kind of a bridge between two different trilogies. Kind of strange.
28 decades later.
Yeah.
28 centuries.
Million seconds later. 28 cuts later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, a zombie movie 28 centuries in the future, I would absolutely watch that. I hope somebody makes that movie.
They would call it like, 2800 AD. That'd be like a little twist on the theme.
Yeah. Well, if nobody out there is making that movie, we have to take it upon ourselves, I think. Our mission is clear.
Yeah.
In terms of monster movies that have come out throughout film history, mid-July, maybe not surprisingly, is a great time of the year for horror movies, monster movies, big budget blockbusters. Naomi, is there anything on this list of past July monster movies that jumps out at you?
Yeah, there's a couple. I'm going to shout out Day of the Animals on there. It's late 70s. Have either of you seen it?
I wanted to for a while.
Well, basically the premise is that like a psychosis is kind of triggered from ozone depletion, and any animal above the 5,000 feet goes berserk. It also has a shirtless Leslie Nielsen fighting a bear. So, that could be a little something to get you to watch it finally, maybe. It's pretty wild.
I'm sold.
Yeah, that's all I needed. I have to watch that movie now.
Yeah.
I'm such a big fan of 70s nature run amok films, eco horror, because like the special effects are so bare bones. Mm-hmm. They're using real animals. So you know what? On that note, I'm going to shout out Orca from the same year, 1977, about a killer whale. We featured it on the podcast, but I think this movie is underrated. It's very Shakespearean in its presentation, and it's about a man, a harpoonist, a harpoon man who goes toe to toe, so to speak, with a father orca, because the harpoon man killed the mom, or the female. And I say mom because the female was also pregnant. So Daddy Orca lost his whole family to this harpoon man, and it's on from there.
Whoa.
It's crazy.
That sounds good. Maybe a new Father's Day type movie watch, Like on that there. How far a father would go.
Yes.
It's like Death Wish with an orca. Death Fish, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had so many puns on our episode, Matt, if you remember.
On the orca episode, I do vaguely remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
As we often do on Camp Kaiju. But I agree, Orca was better than I thought it would be. It's a very ridiculous movie, but it has some merit to it.
Yeah.
Charlotte Rampling is in it. Richard Harris, I think, is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Weird
I'll have
movie.
to check it out.
Yeah, not bad. There are quite a few on this list that I was going to shout out as well, but we were just talking about zombie movies, so I think I'll mention Day of the Dead from 1985, obviously by George A. Romero, the third in that series. Personally, I like it a little bit more than Dawn of the Dead. Day of the Dead It's certainly not subtle, but it's a great, not only zombie movie, but also kind of indictment of militarism and like the U.S. Army in particular. Really great movie. Highly recommend that one.
I agree. Yep.
So yeah, mid-July, great time for monster movies. What, however, is coming up on Camp Kaiju?
Well, I definitely just want to talk about the Shaggy Dog real quick. This is a special Magic and Monsters episode with Patrick Kozicki of the Gaze Through the D Disney podcast. And Patrick and I review 1958's The Shaggy Dog, which was not the first live-action Disney film, but like the first big one that proved a model that Disney could work with. But it's going to be dropped. It's going to be the next episode after The Company of Wolves. And it's a great pairing because the Shaggy Dog actually deals with lycanthropy. And when you view it, you're like, oh, this is actually a werewolf movie. Well, a lycanthropy movie because it's a dog. But there's some spooky elements for sure. So look out for that episode next week. And then the following week, we'll do a kaiju film. And Matt, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, July is coming up. So Vincent and I are going to select a few classic kaiju movies that we haven't talked about on the podcast yet. And go back to a classic of the true kaiju genre.
We will determine maybe 4 episodes, and then we'll do some voting. It could be a Showa era Godzilla, maybe not even a Godzilla film. There's lots of other kaiju out there we haven't featured on the show yet.
Can't wait. It's going to be so fun. Back to some old kaiju goodies. Not to mention announcing our season 5 part 2 lineup. That'll be coming soon as well, probably a little bit later this summer. Always have fun doing those episodes, so stay tuned for that as well.
I can't wait to see what you guys have in store.
I keep flip-flopping. I have some titles that I've been holding on to for months, for almost a year. So I'm a freak like that. But then recently I'm like, oh no, I want to feature this movie now instead of that other one. It's all programming. It's like, what would be if I had to program a movie theater and show like 6 monster movies? What would be the ones? So I'm looking for variety through decades as well as subgenres. Yeah, just seeing what works well with each other.
Totally. I go through that same stuff with my trivia where I just have this ever-growing long list of possible themes, movies that I'd like to feature, ones that I'd like to connect with the time of year or something that's going around. But yeah, I think it's all the same, even though we do different things, we're still facilitating a good time,
Yeah, facilitating a good time.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. It's fun, but a little bit daunting sometimes in the best possible way.
Yeah.
So you want me to tell you the story of my life? I'll tell you my story. I'll tell you all of it. Gee, I'm flesh and blood, but not human. I haven't been human for 200 years.
From the novel by Anne Rice. From Neil Jordan, the director of The Crying Game.
I've come to answer your prayers. Life has no meaning anymore, does it?
His name is Lestat.
But what if I could give it back to you? Pluck out the pain and give you another life. One you could never imagine. I can see you lying on a bed of satin.
He chose one man. He gave him infinite power, eternal life, and a daughter who would be forever young.
This is the only real evil left.
And then he took the light of day.
You're a vampire who never knew what life was until it ran out in a red gush over your lips. I can't stand this any longer.
You made us what we are, didn't you?
God kills indiscriminately, and so shall we. You like dying? You condemn me to hell! Monster. One happy heaven.
Take her, Louis. End her suffering and yours. But do not doubt, you are a killer.
I want some more.
Brad Pitt, Stephen Ray, Antonio Banderas, Kirsten Dunst, and Christian Slater. Interview with the Vampire.
What do you see?
The Howling. Somewhere in the city, in this human jungle, it begins.
Let's try. He's right there.
What do you see?
What's there, Karen?
What do you see, Karen?
What's there?
Somewhere in these woods, in this primal, sensuous, secret place, lies an experience too terrifying for words. And now, all anyone can do is watch and wait.
Tonight I'm going to show you something. Make you believe.
The Howling.
TriStar Pictures announces the collaboration of three extraordinary talents. Jim Henson, creator of The Muppets and Dark Crystal.
Where you go with a head like that?
George Lucas, creator of the Star Wars saga. And one of the most innovative forces in modern entertainment, David Bowie. Together, they will take you into a dazzling world of fantasy and adventure.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
A world where anything seems possible, and nothing is what it seems.
Everything I've done for you. I move the stars for no one. Run so long, run so far.
The world of Labyrinth.
The director and co-writer of The Company of Wolves is the Irish artist Neil Jordan. This was his second movie after his feature debut, which is called Angel. He directed a lot of movies throughout his career. He's still going strong. He directed films like Mona Lisa, The Crying Game, Interview with the Vampire, The End of the Affair, Breakfast on Pluto, many others. Little hit or miss sometimes, maybe in my opinion, but he definitely has some great stuff. In terms of like general themes in his films, they often focus on sexuality and social or political pressures. Since he's Irish, that in his movies, that sometimes deals with the troubles of Northern Ireland and issues of independence and colonialism and things like of that nature. And some of that, maybe not the political stuff, but certainly the theme of sexuality plays a major role in The Company of Wolves. I thought it was kind of interesting. He started off writing a children's fantasy series for Irish TV called Wanderly Wagon, and I just thought that might have had some kind of influence on The Company of Wolves as well, which is not a kid's movie, but it has some like fairy tale elements to it.
I wonder if there's any like themes of transformation in that. You know, I've only seen Interview with the Vampire, and that's definitely a common theme in that. I'll have to check out some of his other films, though.
I like
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Matt.
No.
Well, I was going to say, I have also only seen Interview with the Vampire on that list, which is definitely about sexuality, but it's so campy. And I mean that as a compliment. I think it's a stylistic choice for that film to be as over the top as it is sometimes. Maybe not. I've read mixed reviews, but I like that movie a lot personally. But it's very different in its presentation from The Company of Wolves, which I found very few moments of humor and camp. I think this movie takes itself very seriously, which is a good thing, I think. So yeah, I'd like to see some other Neil Jordan examples.
Yeah, Interview with a Vampire is a very fun movie for sure. I feel like maybe the literary source by Anne Rice might lead to some of that camp value. Because you're right, the tone is totally different from The Company of Wolves, for better or worse. But yeah, Breakfast on Pluto with Cillian Murphy is really good. The end of the affair with Julianne Moore is great. Yeah, overall, a director to check out for sure.
Yeah.
Perhaps the second major creative influence on The Company of Wolves is the co-writer, Angela Carter. She also wrote the short stories on which the film is based. Certainly The Company of Wolves, the eponymous short story, but also a couple of her other short stories, The Werewolf and Wolf Alice, all of which were featured in The Bloody Chamber, an anthology of short stories that she wrote. Angela Carter worked with Jordan on the screenplay of The Company of Wolves. She said that she really enjoyed the filmmaking process. This was kind of her first screenwriting experience, although she did do a radio adaptation of The Company of Wolves before this. She's an English writer, very well known for her feminist, magical realist works. Before writing The Bloody Chamber, Angela Carter translated the works of Charles Perrault, who wrote the original Little Red Riding Hood along with many other fairy tales. And, kind of like Neil Jordan's early TV work, I wonder if Angela Carter's work translating those fairy tales presumably led to some of the themes in this movie as well. We'll talk a little bit more about Angela Carter later on tonight, but just a few more names I want to mention. We have cinematographer Brian Loftus, who did some of the special photographic effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey. Wanted to call him out because I think The Company of Wolves is absolutely gorgeous, and I love his work in this movie. I think the music is really good as well. George Fenton did the musical score. And then finally, we have production design by Anton Furst, who did such good work on The Company of Wolves. Stanley Kubrick wanted to hire him for Full Metal Jacket. And then shortly after that, Furst also did the great Oscar-winning production design for Tim Burton's Batman in 1989.
Well, very cool. I didn't know any of that. That's super interesting.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because the production design of The Company of Wolves was the first thing that stood out to me. As soon as they get into the forest, I'm like, okay, show's over, folks. Look at this thing. Look at this. It's just, if film is a visual media, this is pure artwork.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. I think it's super important too to kind of underscore some of the themes. It immediately sets you up for being in a different world of kind of like dream logic and all these different things. I like that about it so much. It's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and especially on a small budget. We'll talk about that in a little bit here, but all of them did just incredible work on this movie. But now we can talk about the cast a little bit. Vincent, do you want to start us off?
Sure. We have our main character, Rosaline, played by Sarah Patterson. She was 13 years old when the movie was made. The production had to make a special arrangement with her school to make her available for shooting. Yep, working with child actors. So it goes. Patterson had shown up to auditions to support a friend, ironically, not to audition herself. Neil Jordan had initially intended to get someone older for the role, but stated they couldn't overlook Patterson's talent. As a result, he rewrote some scenes to tone down their sexual content. That's an interesting note that I clocked in the film. Mm-hmm. Continuing, after The Company of Wolves, Sarah Patterson appeared in a few more films, but largely retired from acting. You know who I thought she looked like? I need to look up the actress's name. But are you fans of 30 Rock?
Yeah.
You remember Jack's girlfriend with the bird bones?
Yeah, Hollow Bones. Yeah.
Yes, Hollow Bones.
I forget her name, but I see her in all kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's great. And I don't know, something about Sarah Patterson's face reminded me of Hollow Bones woman's face. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, the age isn't going to match up, but it'd be wild if that was her.
Yeah, I looked her up too to be like, what else? Is she in anything? Like, what did she grow up into? But yeah. It's kind of I guess, just only seen her in that film.
Yeah. Emily Mortimer is the name of the actor.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that character until you just brought her up right now. But I used to be a huge fan of 30 Rock, bringing back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
But the big name in this cast is the Angela Lansbury. Is she knighted?
I don't know.
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. Let me find out here.
On our Wikipedia, Dame Angela Lansbury.
My bad. Dame Angela. My apologies, Dame Angela.
Disrespecting Angela Lansbury. We lost her head for this film.
She did. A very porcelain head, indeed.
Yeah, she plays the granny. But Lansbury is prolific, acclaimed stage screen actress whose career spanned over 80 years. She only died like 3 years ago. And Neil Jordan was especially inspired to cast her due to her performance in The Manchurian Candidate from 1962.
Which is great. Love that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love seeing her in this movie. I think she just brings so much presence and like conservative authority that it really works well.
Yeah. Yeah. You needed like a face you could like. I love the casting game too. Like, who can we cast who's known, but who's not going to overshadow the film? Angela Lansbury. Yeah, she'll fit this role perfectly. If it was someone else, I don't know, she might steal the scene, and you don't want that to happen either.
Yeah. I read kind of a funny interview with Neil Jordan where he was talking about working with Angela Lansbury. And, this again was like a low budget picture, kind of like a quick shooting schedule. And Lansbury was one of the bigger names in the cast. And the only time that she was not super happy about the production circumstances is the scene where she and Rosaline are in the church. And they dropped a bunch of spiders on Angela Lansbury, like real live spiders. It's the only time that she was very mad and did not want to take part in the production. Otherwise, she was totally on board. I love that story.
Wow.
I probably would not enjoy that either.
No, nor would I.
No, that was a creepy moment too.
Yeah.
Icky.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to continue. David Warner plays Rosaline's father, another revered English actor whose career spanned about 60 years. David Warner was the kind of actor you've probably seen in numerous other movies, but might not know his name. He appeared in, for example, Tom Jones, Straw Dogs, The Omen, Time Bandits, Tron, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Just letting that one rest for a little bit. Titanic, Avatar, and many others. Yeah, this movie is also kind of a who's who of British actors of the time of the 80s.
Yeah,
I recognized a lot of their faces.
Yeah, immediately when I saw him, I was like, "Oh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. That's the guy. It's the scientist." So that just shows my point of view is. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see the other one or to hear the other ones listed out. Yeah, you just see him all over, but you don't, he's one of those good actors that you see, but you don't necessarily know his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terrence Stamp plays the devil, an uncredited cameo from the legendary English actor. Oh, that's right. The devil rides up in a 1930s coupe car. Very, very surreal moment.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, speaking of surrealism, although, Andy Warhol, defies any definitions. Andy Warhol was initially wanted by Neil Jordan to play the devil. Warhol was interested, but he had just been shot in NYC. Oh my God, I didn't know that. And he was still recovering, so he was unable to travel for the production. That makes sense.
Would have been cool to see him in this movie, though.
Yeah.
Surprising.
I wanted to see a photo of him and Angela Lansbury, behind the scenes. That would have been cool.
Yeah. Two titans of art.
Yes.
Yeah. Stephen Ray as the young groom who has a gnarly werewolf transformation scene. This Irish actor also worked with Neil Jordan on nearly all his movies, including Angel, The Crying Game, Interview with the Vampire, Breakfast at Pluto, etc.
I don't know how familiar you guys are with Stephen Ray, but I'm a big fan of his. He's great in Angel. He has a nice presence. He has a very limited role in this movie, but again, that werewolf transformation scene, so disgusting. I love it.
Which one is he? He plays the young bridegroom?
Yep. Yeah, the one who leaves the cabin on the wedding night and then never comes back until 5 or 6 years later. Discovers that his wife has married somebody else and had kids with somebody else, and then almost immediately turns into a werewolf in maybe the goriest way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. How could I forget?
Yeah. There are lots of like classic famous werewolf transformation scenes throughout film history, of course, in American Werewolf in London, The Howling being two good examples from around the same time period. But even though The Company of Wolves is not like strictly a werewolf movie, I do like the transformation scenes in this film a lot as well.
Same too. They're so grotesque and just like the skin tears, the stretching, like, it feels just really memorable and really cool. I love them. Even if you're not into the symbolism, or if you saw it as a kid, I think it would still stick with you just because some of those visuals are so strong.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. It's not talked about enough. I didn't, we're talking about personal histories with this film. I was unaware of this film until really, Matt, you brought it to my attention this past year. But, I'm a fan of werewolf movies, and I feel like I've always heard about the same ones, especially from the 80s. This one seems to have missed my radar, but with these transformations, I'm kind of surprised I've never come across it in werewolf transformation compilation scenes.
Yeah.
Just by the by. But no, these transformations are just as memorable as I think an American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. Yeah.
Different, distinct, like they have their own flavor. I'll bet if you're designing something like that, or whoever's in charge of kind of bringing that to life, you want to think about like, what are you going to use that people already know or assume about a transformation? And what are you going to kind of create out of nothing? And it's really neat in that way. I enjoyed watching it very much.
Yeah. The really long animatronic tongue was amusing as well. Or tongues, I guess, plural. I love all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What I love is no two transformations in this movie are alike. It's like, I think we have at least three that I'm thinking about. The bridegroom who returns, the wedding party.
Yep.
Where they all go turning into dog werewolves. And then the real, like the Little Red Riding Hood scene.
Mm-hmm.
Are there others?
Huntsman, yeah. Those are the three main ones. I feel like maybe there are a couple other moments where the transformation takes place off screen, but those are the three big ones that I remember.
Yeah. My favorite, I'd love to hear your favorites, is the final one when the wolf comes out of the mouth.
Yeah.
You see the snout of the dog actor or the wolf actor coming out of the prosthetic head of the mouth. I was like, that is so iconic. I love that.
Amazing. I love that shot.
Yeah, me too. That's just so cool. Like it sticks in your mind for sure.
Yeah. I would say maybe I slightly prefer the first one just because like I can't remember what point in the movie that is, maybe 20 minutes, something like that. But like up until that point, there's some kind of weird stuff. You don't know exactly what's happening, but there's not really any like explicit horror stuff until that moment. And then this guy's just ripping off his face. Like my jaw was on the floor during that scene. Couldn't believe it. But they're all good in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk about the production backstory a little bit of The Company of Wolves.
Okay, so some of the backstory here. Angela Carter's short story anthology, The Bloody Chamber, was published in 1979. She adapted the short story, The Company of Wolves, into a radio drama in 1980. So then, in 1982, she and Jordan met in Dublin to discuss expanding the story and several others from The Bloody Chamber into a feature film. Carter and Jordan would have daily meetings to discuss the direction of the script and work on it separately to compare their work. A third draft of the screenplay was finished in July of 1983. So Carter's screenplay differs from the final film in a few notable ways. So it features an additional story told by the huntsman, a different final tale that Rosaline tells the wolf, and a scene in which some animals congregate in a church. So that's interesting. The ending is also different. Carter's scripted ending involves Rosaline being swallowed up by the floor of her bedroom, but the production didn't have the budget for that. So they just couldn't make that happen, I guess. That would have been cool, though.
Yeah.
That seems very Nightmare on Elm Street almost.
Yeah.
Like swallowed up by your surroundings.
Yeah.
Totally.
The bedroom was so interesting. It really reminded me of the Labyrinth, of just like all of her toys in there and, kind of like, I don't know, it's just a really neat little environment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So getting back to it. So Jordan spent several weeks preparing hundreds of storyboard drawings to plan this visual look, which was integral in creating the, heightened sense of reality, in his words. in her words, inspired by the works of the British painter Samuel Palmer and French illustrator Gustave Doré. Very cool. I'd like to look up some of that and see what it looks like. Aside from a few exterior shots, much of the film was shot in Shepperton Studios, England. Christopher Tucker, who also did the makeup for John Hurt in The Elephant Man, designed the werewolf transformation animatronics. The budget was only £2 million, so creating the fantastic sets and costumes was a challenge. The low budget and concerns about cast safety also meant that many of the wolves featured in the film were, in fact, Belgian shepherds whose fur was specially dyed, which I think we could all kind of tell.
Yeah.
Watching the film.
Cute, cuddly wolves.
Yeah. Bunch of wolves at a table.
Yeah.
Learn from aristocrats.
Right.
Yeah, I had a few moments like that where, well, on the one hand, I do want to say the portrayal of the wolves throughout this movie legitimately frightened me many times. The way they're shot and lighted with their glowing eyes. Then there were some scenes like the dinner table where I was just like, "Aw, big fluffy puppies."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's a good boy?
Yeah.
I want to be at that wedding party. That looked fun.
Same. It looked very 80s too, just like the white and the pink draping. Like it felt very of the time, you know? It's funny when stuff like that sneaks in. It usually happens in makeup or hair or something. But yeah, I felt it in that scene for sure.
Yeah.
I was surprised to hear that they actually collaborated more than I anticipated on bringing that to life. You know, I thought it was so cool that a woman like had her hand in telling this story, and it's super like important, you know, because knowing the first hands of like the anxieties and awakenings of growing up, specifically about girlhood, is so important to the film. And that perspective just shapes every part of it. You know, the experience of like realizing your body is being watched and judged and desired, you know, when you become a certain age or look a certain way. And I think women just know all about that.
Yeah, Angela Carter is really fascinating. I tried to do a little bit of reading. I read some of The Bloody Chamber before tonight. She's just a fantastic writer. And there's an element of horror, of course, but I think I was struck by like the element of just pathos and sensitivity and empathy. Some of it's like a little bit extreme. There certainly are a lot of sexual themes in The Bloody Chamber in her book, but yeah, really incredible writer. And she and Neil Jordan got along really well, and he wanted to work with her again. And then she died pretty young at like 47 years old from lung cancer, so they never got the chance to do that, sadly.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I wonder if we'll ever see, you know, some of that anthology come to life. You know, horror is such a anthology genre that it would be cool to see more of that.
Definitely. And there are so many great women horror directors right now, like Arkasha Stevenson, Coralie Fargier, Julia Ducournau, both French women, and just so many examples. Like, I would love to see somebody like tackle that anthology, like you said. It'd be awesome. The Company of Wolves premiered at the Toronto Film Festival in September 1984. It was released in the UK later that month, and then in the United States in April 1985. The American distributor was Cannon Films. That name might ring a bell. They released a lot of low-budget horror and action movies in the 1980s. So this was kind of a weird choice for them to distribute the movie. Their marketing strategy definitely emphasized the horror elements of The Company of Wolves, and maybe not so much the art, surrealism, coming-of-age elements. The film was mildly successful at the box office, making almost $6 million on a budget of about $2 million. Reviews were mostly positive. There were some mixed reviews, some criticisms of the violence and the underdeveloped characters, but mostly pretty solid reviews for this film. Neil Jordan won Best Director from the London Critics' Circle Film Awards, and the movie has gone on to gain quite a cult following ever since its release.
Very cool. Yeah, I definitely had the vibe of, you know, thinking of it that it looked like an old Hammer film. Like, I even said that to my partner when I was watching it. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Yeah, I know the Hammer films were one kind of inspiration, but Roger Corman Productions were another big one that Neil Jordan mentioned, which I think is so cool. I love those Roger Corman movies, the fantastic sets and costumes and the bright colors and everything. I think you can see that here as well.
Absolutely.
Well, now, friends, it is time once again for our sponsor break. Camp Kaiju is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty, your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients, and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services. Follow the Zack Pack on social media, and contact the Zack Pack for investment opportunities. Link in the show notes. Vincent, do we have anything in Minia's mailbox tonight?
We do, and we have quite a few. We have 5 messages from Don, super fan Don. He's written emails, he's commented on Spotify, on Instagram, and we haven't. Don, I know you're listening. Thank you. I know we haven't gotten to your comments yet, but I want to read at least 2 of them. So listeners out there, on our Swamp Thing episode, Don wrote on Spotify, "Hey campers, here's a semi-useless, potentially completely useless bit of trivia. Burton Cummings, lead singer of the Guess Who, American Woman, Laughing, Undone, Share the Land, etc., is an avid DC Comics collector. He has stated, if memory serves correct, that Swamp Thing is his favorite, or at least one of his favorites. No word on how he felt about the movie."
A Bernie Wrightson fan, then. The artist who did the comics.
You're a big fan, Naomi, right? Of Swamp Thing?
I am. Yeah. I have 2 of his prints in my house, and one of them is signed. He does beautiful line work, very expressive, very intricate. My partner and I have a very large art collection, and that's probably the cream of our collection are those 2 pieces. So, yeah, big fan.
That's cool.
Yeah. I have to admit, comic book art is like a big blind spot for me. It's something I've always wanted to get more into, but haven't really checked it out yet. So I might need to get some more recommendations from you at some point.
Cool.
Well, I need to get some Swamp Thing in my comic book collection because I was always so focused on traditional superheroes that I'm sure I just overlooked Swamp Thing, which is a shame on me. Okay, one more comment from Don in regards to our episode on the island of Dr. Moreau. "Great show, fellas. I did not realize how convoluted the backstory was on this film. You mentioned your age when you saw this one, that I was about the same age as you guys when I saw the 70s version of Dr. Moreau. That film was interesting." I love a review. It's like, that movie was interesting. "Good acting, bit over the top at times, pretty campy in the makeup of the island's inhabitants. Hope you review that one sometime."
And you saw that one, right, Vincent? The 77 version?
I did. It's I don't find it as a compelling a watch as honestly the other 2 adaptations of the story. But there is one sequence, speaking of animals gone wild. The final like the final 30 minutes of that Moreau is animals busting loose and mauling everybody they can find. It's pretty great.
Added to the watch list. It's another one. Man.
Yeah. Sorry, Don, I just saw this. He goes on to continue. "I got interested in the movie when someone gave me a copy of the Marvel Comics adaptation of the film. I recently bought a copy of the book, which is likely next on my reading list." Wow.
Nice.
We're talking about comic books and nature gone wild here tonight, as well as the Company of Wolves. I love it.
Yeah. All over the place.
Well, thank you, Don, and keep them coming. We appreciate it. We'll read more next time. Listeners out there, you do the same. Leave us a voicemail if you'd rather kind of expand upon your comments via the voice. We're happy to play that. And yeah, and then we're gonna hear from Peter Lorre here. He's doing all right. So I hear. I don't know, Matt, you live with the guy, but
does not sound like he's doing all right.
Yeah,
from my perspective, yeah.
Right. I mean,
there's some weird noises in there sometimes.
Have you talked to him?
No. Things are a little strained right now between us. So, I maybe knock on the door a couple times just to make sure he's still alive, but that's about it.
You're a pal. You're a pal.
Good roommate.
Well,
wow,
he's also
Matt.
not the best roommate in the world. I'm just going to throw that out there.
What does he do?
Oh, what doesn't he do? There's the stench of fish heads all over the place. There are weird stains all over his room, which no human body can emit. Just like weird mutterings in his like high-pitched German voice. I think he has some bad nightmares because I hear him like tossing and turning all the time. I can't get a moment's rest around here,
Well, I hope you figure that out soon. In the meantime, join him as he watches the 1943 Poverty Row picture known as Dead Men Walk. And I have not seen this film, but I would love to. It is about a small town doctor's twin returning from the grave to seek vengeance.
Wow.
I really hope it's as good as it sounds.
There was a remake with Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon, right?
Oh, that was that?
Yeah, that's the same story, I think.
I need new twin movies, though. I was thinking about that with like Sinners and stuff. Like, I want to do like a twin marathon. I might have to throw that one into the mix.
Would you include doppelgangers in that?
Yes, I would include. Yeah, I would include doppelgangers, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that one film? The Prestige. That's kind of a doppelganger. Yeah.
That's a fascinating subgenre. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot to be said there.
I think, there's an older one called Dead Ringer, not the Cronenberg movie, but the older one with Bette Davis, I think, where she plays twins. That movie's fantastic. Love that one.
I gotta add that.
Cool.
Lots of good ones out there.
Welcome to Poverty Row Studios, on the other side of Hollywood, where the stars were dimmer and the red carpets dripped with blood. Together we will watch the best of the worst, movies known for their limited budgets, outlandish concepts, and questionable performances. But with enough haunted houses, zombies, ape men, and devil bats to keep you up at night. This is the Poverty Row Picture Show. I dare you to sleep through these nightmares. Hello there, I am Peter Lorre. You may remember me from such cinematic classics as Quicksand and My Favorite Brunette. Truly standouts in my long and varied career. But never did I have the pleasure of playing in a Poverty Row horror film. Lugosi, George Zuko, John Carradine, sure. But did they ever call Mr. Lorre? Well, they did, as a matter of fact, but alas, I was a busy bee elsewhere. Little did I know that some 60 years after my one-way ticket to Terminal Dreamland, I would be resurrected by two podcasters in Minnesota. Oh, they would force me to review classic monster movies in exchange for my eternal soul. But the gig was too good to pass up, and so, in the end, here I remain, a willing player in the sums of Hollywood infamy. And as a bonus, Matthew has opened up his home to me. He feeds me, irons my clothes, and generally worships the ground I float above. But whatever he tells you, I am an outstanding roommate. Oh sure, I may be growing a large carnivorous lilac. It may be our collective doom, but that is second banana to tonight's Poverty Row horror film, Dead Men Walk. About a doctor who battles his twin brother, now returned from the grave as a vampire. Helping the vampire twin feast on the innocent, his horror icon, the one and only, Dwight Fry, essentially reprising his Renfield from a decade prior. But this one in Dead Man Walk would be among Mr. Fry's last roles, and he delivers a sensationally sadistic performance. As a whole, however, it is as if the director took the title Dead Men Walk too literally. Most of the cast sleepwalks through the picture with little visual excitement to keep your attention. Now again, Dwight Fry. That man could act, and I will pour one out for him. Oh, no, Lilac. It is only leftover fish head juice that I pour out. I did not know you were saving that. Lilac, stay down. Easy, girl, easy. No. Oh. Jeez. Lilac. You are crushing my bones. Please, for the love of Zuko, put me down. You are too powerful. Listeners, help me. Help. It is not my time. I must review our next film, a ditty called The Ape Man, about Bela Lugosi turning into a gorilla.
Keep up the moors. Stick to the roads. The best of luck.
Thanks for the ride, sir. You have lovely sheep. Northern England first, Italy later. Right.
Excuse me. Well, what's that star on the wall for?
Did you hear that?
Must go to them.
It's circling us.
No one brought them here. No one wanted them here.
Sounds far away. Not far enough. Come on.
See God's hands now.
Stay on the road. Keep clear of the moors.
For now, we'll turn it back to the Company of Wolves. Let's dive into the themes of this movie, and I think there are a lot of them. It's, thematically, this movie is filled to the brim. Might be a little bit ambiguous what exactly it's trying to say at times, but fascinating movie thematically.
Well, to me, it just comes down to, like I said before, the experience of realizing you're being seen differently by men. And she kind of goes through that and is very processing all of that throughout the film. She's not a passive character, and I like that. And the film captures that shift, and it's quite unsettling. I think that's the main thing that sticks with me thematically. And we can't help but also see that Little Red Riding Hood is kind of a part of that, and maybe there's a puberty metaphor there as well. But yeah, a lot of themes for sure.
Definitely. I would just add to that in Angela Carter's original short stories, she definitely makes it clear that the young women that she writes about are going through puberty and experiencing these changes with their bodies and don't initially know how to deal with it, and then kind of, in a similar way to the protagonist of The Company of Wolves, kind of have a difficult, potentially liberating, but also somewhat frightening experience with that. And I think that comes through in the movie as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that it's frightening, but these wolves are summoned in her imagination. The story unfolds like nesting dolls almost, where, there's a story and then there's a dream and then there's a story in that and then another story. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's what was I going to say? Oh, and she becomes a wolf at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the end of, I guess, her dream sequence, where the lines are blurred, but we know we're within her dream. She becomes a wolf and runs off with the other one, which I found that whole scene, like the Little Red Riding Hood scene, I guess I felt challenged by what am I supposed to get out of this scene? Because he's no pun intended, a predator.
Mm-hmm.
And he's killed Granny, and he's threatening her sexually, and yet she runs off with him by the end. She feels sympathy for him. I guess that was played well, where she looks out the window, she sees the other wolves of the pack, and she feels sorry for the wolf, and she has I guess a change of heart in that way. I don't really have any takes, or I haven't come down hard on any one way. I think that's kind of the point of the film too, like to just leave you with a lot of open-ended questions, to grapple with, which is legitimate. And I know it's not everyone's favorite form of storytelling, but I do appreciate that and respect that. Sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. Getting back to the themes, you're talking about the sexual awakening and the puberty from the girl's point of view. Maybe it's because I am a man. I was noticing that, and all the men in her story and how they all treat her, whether there's the amorous boy, which is a great name for that character.
I was laughing so hard at that in the credits.
I was watching the movie with subtitles on.
Oh,
it said amorous boy, and I thought, is that like a weird Tubi thing? Like, is that really the character's name?
I also watched it with captions on Amazon Prime, and it also said amorous boy, so that's just what he's known as.
Yeah, I love it.
He's a new superhero.
And
I wonder if he uses that to get girls. I was the amorous boy in Company of Wolves.
Well, then they say, in what movie? And then he shows them, and that's where he's like, okay, is she a keeper or not? How's she going to react to the Company of Wolves?
It's a good test.
Yeah. But anyways, what I was saying was, whether it's the amorous boy, who I believe is largely innocent, like he's just a young amorous boy who has a crush on a girl. But then you have more, again, threatening levels of romantic interest and sexual interest from older men. Regardless, all the men see her as an object of desire. And I just noted the different prisms of that desire and her place as an object in that.
When it speaks to kind of a toxic patriarchy, like there's a moment where that boy is like talking, his father's kind of egging him on a little bit. And I think that's pretty yucky. On one hand, we've got the granny who's kind of like, using her fear and her trauma to kind of try to, warn her essentially to, what men are like. And then on the other side, we've got the amorous boy who's being egged on, doesn't even quite know what to do, following her into the forest, being super pushy and weird. Yeah, it was just interesting how women get different advice than men get in coming of age times, or at least have historically.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. And I admire the movie for definitely having those themes, and also maybe suggesting that Rosaline's, awareness of herself, of her body, and certainly like how precarious of a position that is, but also how potentially empowering that is. That's what Angela Carter said about it. That's what she considered to be part of the theme of the movie, not just the threat of sexuality, but also the empowerment of sexuality. She wrote about that a lot. And I think we see that in the film as well. So it's kind of flip sides of the same coin. It's the good and the bad. It's the horror and possibly the liberation of it, if that's the right word. And that's kind of why one of the reasons I admire this movie. Like, it's not like pigeonholed into one reading, And that's certainly the way Jordan and Carter intended it. Like, they wanted it to be sort of, deconstructing fairy tales, but not really having like an absolute clear message. And sometimes I'm not okay with that, but I think in this case it works really well because the experience of puberty and coming of age and sexuality is just such a strange, disorienting time. I think the movie kind of tries to include all that in very weird, surreal, symbolic ways.
Totally. And I think it's just kind of marks that bitter passage of time, like you become a certain age, you can't go back, and you sort of reflect on your childhood and have this fear of what's next, and I think that's a big part of her becoming a wolf, is that you can't put the genie back in the bottle, so to speak, you just keep going forward. And I almost wonder though, you talked about fairy tales in your research with her work. Does she do that frequently with kind of deconstructing, kind of getting to the heart of a fairy tale and like what those themes are?
Yeah, I wasn't able to read all of these, like, all of her books in their entirety, but not only in The Bloody Chamber, but also in another book called, I think, The Black Venus, I'm pretty sure, is another anthology of kind of fairy tale folklore stories that, again, are kind of flipped on their head, and some of the sexual themes, the themes of power and desire certainly come through from what I've read in that book as well. She has a book-length essay. Let's see if I can remember the title of it. It's like The Sadian Woman, meaning like the Marquis de Sade's depiction of women, and the ideology of pornography. Angela Carter wrote that book as well. I read a little bit of that, which is fascinating. It was pretty controversial because it kind of argues that the Marquis de Sade's seemingly very brutal and misogynistic depictions of women could be seen, Angela Carter is making this argument, as liberating because they are able to sort of be amoral. They're not sort of constricted into these codes of propriety or being a good person that, in de Sade's era was seen as like how women should behave. So I've read a little bit of that book by Angela Carter, which is fascinating. I from what I read, it kind of, a lot of feminists like took issue with it, and then some other feminists were like, this is a brilliant work of theory and philosophy. So yeah, a difficult work that I haven't read all of, but really fascinating, and I think some of those ideas make their way into The Company of Wolves as well.
Yeah.
I love that. I've this is an education for me in this film and Angela Carter. I definitely want to check out some of her work. And I think the word difficult, like this movie is difficult to critique, I think, in a traditional way. And it's obviously by design. Just want to go back, Matt, you had read about the release and legacy and some of the criticisms at the time, talking about underdeveloped characters. I guess I could see where those critics are coming from, but at the same time, A, I think the characters are developed enough, and B, they're developed for what they need, for what this movie is. If the movie is a take on fairy tales, well, you're only going to get so much character development in a fairy tale. They're short by design. So I don't know about that criticism, but I think it's good that critics should be challenged by this film, I guess is my point.
Yeah, and it's her dream too, how well developed is anyone's dream if we're getting literal,
Right. Yeah. I had the same reaction. Like, I feel like the characters are archetypes and symbols, but not real human beings,
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like critics, and we do this too. We're just like, sometimes you just like, you feel like you have to come up with something to critique, even if that critique is like the characters were underdeveloped. Were they, or was that literally just the art you were watching?
See, I have the opposite problem where I always have to think of something good. Like, I'll never just be like, that movie was trash, that was bad. Like, that's just not me. I always try to find something that makes it redeeming, even if it's just the effort of creating something. But you're not wrong about how most people kind of approach critiquing and all of that. I don't like to write reviews or anything really like that. I consider any kind of like blogging or writing I do to be more like contextual than, a vehicle for my own personal taste or opinion,
Yeah.
I really admire that. Yeah. And for me, like no movie is perfect and no movie is worthless. Like almost all of them are somewhere in the middle, and I think for me, like writing and reading criticism, I think the joy is like what still can you take away from it? Like what is the value of this movie despite its great things or its bad things? Like what will you remember it for? What will the world remember it for? I think it's important to place it in that larger context, whatever its flaws might be,
I so agree. And that's really how I approach my trivia too, is just like, my trivia is not about plot recall. Like to me, that's boring. And I really much prefer to kind of like make questions that put it into a bigger context, because that's really like ground zero for appreciating something, for wanting to see something. But yeah, sorry, a bit of a tangent there.
I love it. We're all about the tangents. Camp Kaiju all the time.
Yeah.
I did want to mention one more theme, and like you guys certainly feel free to mention more as well, but I really love the theme of just storytelling in this movie. And that might seem kind of obvious because we've talked a lot about fairy tales. We've talked about the kind of Chinese box storytelling structure of the film and like embedded stories within stories. So clearly it's about storytelling, but I think it's powerful in this case because Angela Carter has a quote about this too, but like stories are just such a powerful way to make sense of the human experience, particularly if you are going through difficult times, if you're like, for example, if you're coming of age, if you're going through puberty and you don't totally know what's going on with your body. Storytelling or dreaming in the case of this movie are just like such powerful ways to try to make sense of that. And I always really like movies that kind of don't just tell like one linear story, but maybe have like diversions and like tales within tales or whatever, I always find that really compelling and fascinating. And I think especially so in this case.
I would say too, just it being a fairy tale is very like kind of telling of her transformation of, fairy tales are enjoyed by children for the most part. They're taught morals and all these things, kind of becomes this shared cultural knowledge. And it's really neat to kind of see that inserted here. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with how it unfolds. And it's really like all in her psyche, which is also very just cool and interesting and very neat.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of fairy tales as a genre because of those universal truths that they expose children to. And it's like a collective cultural like touchstones. Like we all know Little Red Riding Hood, which is a great in to this movie. And I didn't know that. I mean, and the movie's more than just Little Red Riding Hood, but the first time she puts on that red coat,
your mind just goes, yes, Little Red.
My mind was blown. I was like, oh, this is what we're doing? I love this. Let's deconstruct something as seemingly simple as Little Red Riding Hood, which in and of itself, yeah, you can read themes of puberty and coming of age, and there's violence in that story because there's different versions. You know, I didn't grow up on the version where the huntsman comes in and kills the wolf, or like pulls Granny out of the wolf. She's still alive. I don't know. But there's different versions depending on your tolerance for violence. But wolves themselves as an element of fairy tales, I'm sure there are others. I think of Little Red Riding Hood. I also think of Beauty and the Beast, which isn't quite a werewolf, but a beastie character anyways. And I think wolves, as we've talked about, and as we all know, that werewolves are great symbols and metaphors for so many different things. Any facet of change and transformation and isolation and loneliness and all these things, whatever you want to put on it.
Yeah, especially with women too, because of that connection to the moon and menstruation and all.
Yeah. In this movie, I like that there are different stories, vignettes, because the wolf is able to be used as more than one metaphor. What I liked in the wedding party scene, it was all the aristocrats who turned into animals and monsters. And I was like, right. And the working class people, the band, they don't turn into monsters. It's the fat cats at the table who become fat dogs, I guess. But yeah, I was like, that's an interesting take, because it's usually the downtrodden who are werewolves and the outcasts. But in this case, no, it's the 1% who have the animals inside.
Well, there's something predatory about them, I love what you said about how they can, they serve different purposes, the wolves in this story. That's very interesting. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
And it's like Granny says, like the scariest or most dangerous ones are the ones that are hairy on the inside, but not on the outside, We see that in the wedding party scene.
Yeah.
And never trust a man whose eyebrows meet in the middle.
Yeah. Good advice for anybody.
Yeah. That unibrow.
Sorry to our unibrow listeners.
Just kidding, of course. I do also, just to follow up on what you said, Vincent, I really love the vignette where it's like the she-wolf who climbs out of the well and then turns back into a young woman. That's a very short vignette. I think it might be the shortest story within the movie, but really powerful. I think like that scene makes it clear that, not only are wolves only a metaphor for the danger of men, there's some of that for sure, but like wolves serve many purposes, like you said. But I think that scene also just has so much empathy for that character. We don't know a lot about her, but we know that she is what she is. She's a lycanthrope, a werewolf, and she's kind of cast out by that and feels, shunned, feels kind of lonely, alienated. And I think a lot of that is conveyed not through dialogue, but just visually in that sequence. And I really love that part a lot.
You know what that makes me think of? The depiction of religion in this film. It's very subtle, but I found it a positive depiction. Rosalie wears a cross, and even as the wolf is wearing the cross necklace and runs off with it. But then you'd mentioned the she-wolf character. She's found by a priest, and he says, "Are you of God or the devil?" And then he stops and says, "Actually, it doesn't matter. Come on inside." And I love that. I think typically in horror films, not typically, but at least often, I find religion to be treated less positively. It's like a shadow force. It's corrupt.
Yeah, and I think Rosaline, the priest reappears in some other sequences as well, and Rosaline seems to have a lot of compassion for him, because Granny doesn't seem to like him very much. Granny has strong opinions about everything, but, I kind of like that Rosaline's, maybe friendship is a strong word, but just simpatico with this priest shows up in that sequence as well, you know?
Yeah. And he drops a bunch of branches on Granny, which was funny.
Yeah, I love that part. Well, clearly a lot of symbolism. The werewolves, again, just represent so many different things in this movie. And yeah, I think you can pick apart the themes pretty extensively, and it's pretty rewarding, in my opinion. Do either of you have any other themes that you want to talk about?
Sure. I had something about how I thought it was interesting that, like, there was no male gaze in the way that you would expect to see it in this film. You know, like, there's red lips and silky garments and those kind of things. But it was really like from her perspective. And I think that scene where she climbs up in the tree and like is putting lipstick on and kind of, you know, that's for herself. That's her. And she's not doing it for anybody else. So I really appreciate that kind of male gaze being subverted moment, because it really is like, you know, what does it feel like to be looked at a certain way when you don't know how to feel about your own body? And it's just an interesting little theme in it. I think that or maybe theme isn't the right word, but an interesting layer that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's a really powerful moment. I think, is that, remind me, because I might be misremembering this, but is that the same part where the wolves that are transformed in the wedding party, they're all kind of like surrounding her and they're like howling at her? Or is that a different part of the movie?
It's when she's being chased by the amorous boy.
Okay.
And she kind of is dodging him and hiding, and she seeks, you know, kind of hit a hiding spot, like up in the tree, essentially.
That's right. Thank you. I'm misremembering different parts of the movie, but
okay, there's a lot going on, weird timelines, like
yeah. Lots of trees.
Mm-hmm.
Although that reminds me, Neil Jordan said the budget was so low on this movie, they only had 12 trees to work with, and they had to like move them around the set all the time to make it seem like a really big forest, but it wasn't. They had almost no props whatsoever.
Well, I did notice, and it's not a criticism, because again, that's not a fair criticism. The movie worked within its means, but I did see like the same path substituted like 6 different times.
Yeah.
I think that's fine, though. It makes sense. You know, the forest is a mental space, not a physical one.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It allows us to operate on a symbolic level, like right from the beginning, you know? So maybe it was a cool thing that they had those limitations. It supported, you know, some of the things said in the theater. Yeah.
Very stage-like, too, because what do you do in theater? You're going to use the same set for 6 different scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works for me. It's still able to achieve such a dreamlike, magical look despite those limitations, or maybe because of them.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Any other themes? I feel like we could talk about the themes for a long time, but I feel like one of the pleasures of this movie is just to watch it for yourself and see what you come away with, you know, like your reading of these themes, because there's a lot of flexibility there, I think.
Yeah, I got nothing. I mean, anything else, I'll just wrap up into subsequent discussion here.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I think we covered most of the things that I wanted to talk about, if not all. Yeah.
Cool. And we already talked about the form and the aesthetic. I have a couple notes here, but we've already touched on all these things, so might be time for our individual breakdowns. As always, we have the good, the bad, and the campy here on Camp Kaiju. So let's start with the good. Maybe I'll just I'll get things rolling and then turn it over to both of you. But I mean, for me, there's so much that I like about this movie, but the visual style is just immaculate. And I think even more so nowadays, when it's just hard to think about a lot of recent movies that like achieve this distinct magical look, which again is frightening, but also like wonderful and transportive, you know? The film really is able to achieve that, again, with a limited budget. The crew really does an amazing job. I love the kind of like, again, the embedded maze-like structure of the plot, which has so many stories within it. It's just a really immersive movie, and I could not wait to see what image would come next and where the movie would go next. So that's the main good thing for me.
Yeah. It's hard to top that, honestly. I think that what's so fun about it is just all the ways it could be interpreted. You know, you think about, you know, is she empowered, or is she, you know, is she predator? Is she prey? Like, what is she? It's just so interesting and so rich. But yeah, the visuals and the sets and all of that are just outstanding. There's a lot of good things about this movie. I didn't find the acting to be annoying or take me out of the moment. So I enjoyed that. I love Angela Lansbury in it and her role in it. And I kind of connected to her in a way of remembering what it's like to kind of be cautioned by your mom or your auntie or your grandma about how you should approach life, men, situations. And a lot of it is informed by their own trauma. So you have to sort of take it, knowing that. But yeah, there's a lot of good things to like about it. I think we've talked a lot about them already, though.
That is, such a good, and I'm speaking from my perspective as an ignorant man, and how I can be less ignorant in those interactions with my female friends of the world. And I think about how this movie is immersive, Matt, to steal your word there. And it does keep you guessing. Like nothing, like there's a surprise in every scene, which is really captivating. The production design does all that work. I was really, it's not often I actually watch a horror film where I actually get creeped out, but I was down by myself in the basement, lights out. I had some, my mood lighting on, and I was like, all right, here we go. And then the dogs show up and their eyes are glowing and they're in shadow. I was spooked, and I heard noises upstairs. I went upstairs. I had to make sure my doors were locked. It was one of those watchings. I was like, was that a mouse in the corner? I don't know what's going on.
That mouse must have been scared too, man.
Yeah, I love the Britishness of it, if that makes sense. Like British folk horror is such a genre. I mean, Picnic and Hanging Rock I've seen, which is Australian, not British, I know, but like Wicker Man and, movies from that.
On Satan's Claw, is very much like that. The Witchfinder General, my God, very Britishy. I love British folk horror, so
yeah, there's a real aesthetic to it. The wedding party sequence, all the transformations, which we mentioned, but need to be shouted out again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a complex film, layered. It's a layered film, which is a credit to the smarts behind the script and the direction and all the design in general. Oh, a couple of quick. I mean, Angela Lansbury losing her head. There's another decapitation in the movie, where a huntsman cuts off the werewolf's head, which is an awesome moment because the wolf's head falls into a bucket of milk.
Yes.
Then when it pops to the surface, it's the human head. Yeah. I was like, man. And milk, as we film nerds know, is often a metaphor for youth. So it's like the corruption of youth. It's bloodied and there's a man's head in it.
Amazing shot.
Amazing. Angela Carter, Neil Jordan, messed up, brilliant minds. Oh, and I love the sequence with the dad comes in. They've just like shot the wolf, and he has a human hand wrapped in the package in the paper, and he's like, "I swear it was a wolf's paw. It was a forepaw." And then he unravels a human hand. It's like, oh, that's sick.
And that exact scene is taken almost verbatim from one of the Angela Carter stories that I did read, which is just called The Werewolf. But you would love that story. I think both of you would love it. And anybody listening, I think you would love it too. So check it out.
All right. I'll try to find maybe some links for the show notes.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Those are my shout outs.
I love it. Sorry, Naomi, but we do have to talk about the criticisms, if there are any. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll start with you, if that's all right, just so you can get it over with. If you do have anything that you don't like about this movie, what might that be?
Well, for me, I didn't really like the religious element to it. I thought it was a bit piled on for me, and it transported me from like a fantasy place to a more like real place, and I just didn't enjoy that kind of whiplash a little bit. But it wasn't enough to really affect me in any way. And I've seen the film twice, and I didn't remember that from seeing it the first time. So it's obviously not that big of a thing for me. But yeah, I would say that just felt a little piled on for me. I didn't enjoy it.
I think that's fair. What about you, Vincent? What did you not like about this movie?
Man, it was difficult, actually. But I felt like the creepy dolls in the beginning like her toys, were creepy. And I think they worked at being creepy. And I get that they represent her previous life as a child. But beyond this, the metaphor and the sheer creep factor, they didn't really play into the rest of the story. And I just felt disconnected with like, this is a wolf story, but you're like really harping on these dolls. But like at the end, I don't feel like they paid off. And then, I mean, not to mention like the life-size dolls that are like actors in costumes. Again, very creepy, but I didn't feel like we needed that. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's super fair. I agree with that. I do think there's some value in kind of using it as a symbol, like at the end, as you know, when wolves are running over it, loss of innocence, kind of that thing. But yeah, the beginning, it's especially weird kind of setting you up with those big toys because you're like, what is this? Like, you know, it doesn't really, it's not a thing that really comes back as you watch the film. So it feels a bit strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think for movies of this kind that are surreal and maybe kind of episodic in a way, like, again, there's not really like a clear narrative that connects everything. I think maybe they tend to be a little bit hit or miss, and there might be a few individual scenes that aren't as successful as others. And I would agree that the scene with the giant toys is one example. Another example for me is the scene where the devil, played by Terrence Stamp, pulls up in the Rolls Royce. I was excited for that moment. I love Terrence Stamp, and like I'm fascinated by mythology around the devil and Satan, and like where does evil come from and questions like that. So I was hoping for a little bit more from that scene. Essentially, the devil just gives that boy like a skull, and that's pretty much the end of the scene. He doesn't really have very much dialogue. The devil doesn't. So I guess maybe I was hoping for more from that scene. Felt a little bit let down. But, you know, I mean, if that's like the biggest criticism I have against the movie, that's not too bad. Just a few scenes that didn't work quite as well for me.
Yeah. I agree. But that's really all I got. I mean, like, again, anything else I could come up with is just like, I don't need to criticize certain things because the movie knows what it is. It's very confident. And if it's that confident in its presentation, well, that's it. Like what am I, I can't criticize a person for being who they are, and this is what it is. So,
Yeah, like I think the overall power of the movie and the fact that it achieves what it wants to do so well, I mean, that for me is kind of the main takeaway,
Yeah.
Despite some mild flaws. And Vincent, you said before that there's not a ton of humor in the movie, and I would mostly agree with that, but is there anything campy that we want to call out here?
There's a line that I immediately had to write down. It's the first maybe werewolf story. There's a young woman, with the young bridegroom, and her new husband, he goes out presumably to go to the bathroom, and he never returns. But the woman says, because the next morning, like the townspeople are like, where did he go? What was he doing? And she says, he was making water when a man is most defenseless. And I said to myself, that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody would be, right? But
it's such a quaint way to say it too, making water. I think I'm going to use that from now on. I like it.
If you've ever gone camping and you got to go pee in the woods, which my wife says is such a man thing, but you're standing out there, you are so vulnerable, pants around your ankles. You're just like, I hope a wolf doesn't eat me right now.
Especially after watching this movie. That's a logical concern.
Yeah.
Naomi, anything campy that you wanted to call out?
Well, I guess maybe like the dyed dogs was a bit campy. And just knowing dogs too, and knowing they're having a great time, like just running around, they got zoomies, like,
yeah.
So that was a little campy. And I also I know this is a big part of the movie, but the kind of the worst wolves are hairy on the inside line, like that whole line to me just feels very almost like a teenage girl diary entry trying to be poetic or something. I don't know. I just felt like didn't have the presence that some of the other parts of the film had, and it was said multiple times, and so for me that would be it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah love those dogs.
Yeah I didn't have a lot of campy stuff either. I like the opening scene of the movie. I don't know if this is camp necessarily, but I like the character of Rosaline's sister, who unfortunately dies pretty early on. But like when we first see her, she's this like goody two shoes who's like, "Oh, mummy, you're back from the grocery store," and then she like calls Rosaline a pest numerous times in like a very British accent, just like pest, 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 pest. And like I think it's supposed to be funny, and I don't know. I just like, there's not very much time in the movie to like be introduced to these characters and their family dynamic as it exists in the real world. So I kind of like the heightened, almost comedic aspect of that. I thought that was done very well, but maybe a little bit campy too.
Well, upon hindsight, because like the sister dies in the dream, right?
I guess it's a little unclear, but yeah, I think so. I mean, I think from the point we enter that part of the movie, I think it's all dream stuff, pretty much.
Yeah. But I love that her little sister is having this revenge fantasy dream. It's like, yeah, well, I'm going to get you in my dream world.
Yeah.
Who's the best now?
Well, I have siblings, and it's not that crazy,
You're not dreaming about them being attacked by werewolves or anything?
Not anymore, but maybe once upon a time.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Lots of good, little bit of bad, tiny bit of campy. But we have arrived at the point where we give the film a rating, as always on Camp Kaiju. Our highest rating is, it is a timeless classic. It definitely stands the test of time. Our second rating, there may be some antiquated moments, but overall it's great. It stands the test of time. Number 3, it may be historically significant or just fun, but it does not stand the test of time. Number 4, it is not worth revisiting. It definitely does not stand the test of time.
Okay.
Vincent, what do you think? Not to call on you like we're in class or anything.
Teacher just called on me.
Yeah.
I think this movie is a timeless classic. It stands the test of time. I think it's underrated, at least in my experience. I think if I'm in a room discussing werewolf movies, I'm gonna talk about this one. I think it stands the test of time because the themes and are not just everlasting, but these are complex themes, like in our own lives. Like how many of us struggle with these things all the time, let alone teenagers. But the way it's presented, it's not simplified. It's not dumbed down. Like this is a complicated movie, fitting of its complicated messages, and it's done really well. So I think it stands the test of time. A beautiful looking film that I would recommend.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. And maybe I'll go next, and then we can let our guest star have the final word. Does that sound all right?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, for me, same. It's a timeless classic. Definitely stands the test of time. I expected to like this movie, but I didn't know how much I was going to like it. Yeah, I would just echo everything that Vincent said about it. Love the mix of like horror, but also, kind of like surreal, complex themes. Really does have a lot to say about the human experience. I'm kind of just repeating everything that Vincent said, but yes, for me too, it is a timeless classic, and I can't wait to watch it again.
Nice. Well, this will be a 3-fer because I also think it is a timeless classic. It'll stand the test of time, especially when viewed as a piece of feminist horror. I think that it really belongs in that category. It's very underrated. It's interesting, it's a film that's interested in how girlhood feels, and it prioritizes that over how a story should be structured. And I like that a lot. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, though, but to anybody that likes a moody, layered, symbolic horror, I definitely would. But I think some men could watch it and be like, not all men, like I feel like not everybody would get it, but I absolutely love this film. And I think that it has a lot of layers that I've seen it twice. I want to still see it again. So yeah, I think it's a great film.
Awesome. I'm so glad we all loved it and gave it the highest rating. I'm very, very happy about that. Seems like a fitting end for the first part of season 5 of Camp Kaiju.
Yeah. More werewolves to come, I'm sure.
I hope so. Maybe my favorite subgenre of monster movie.
You have brought, I brought the Wolfman, but you brought the Howling too.
Yeah. And the Howling, I don't know, the Howling and the Company of Wolves might be neck and neck for my favorite werewolf or pseudo-werewolf movie. Because I don't know if that fully encompasses what the Company of Wolves is,
Right. That's what makes it so good.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so good. I'm so appreciative of you guys having me in this conversation, and I learned a ton about, the backstory of the film, the motivations. I loved hearing your perspective. As always, such a pleasure to be on Camp Kaiju. Thank you.
Well, Naomi, we really can't thank you enough, and it's been so great just getting to know you as a person and getting to become friends through trivia as well as the podcast. So thank you for hanging out with us, and I hope to see you again soon. I can't speak for Matt. Maybe Matt doesn't want to see you
That is
soon.
untrue. I absolutely look forward to that as well. And I'm sure there will be more guest spots in the future, and I'm mightily looking forward to them.
Oh, yes. Please let me know. Always a pleasure. Always a privilege. Thank you very much.
All right. And we'll put links to Film Friends movie trivia in the show notes. So people check out movie trivia at Indeed.
Yes, that would be great. It's very much a passion project. It's unlike any trivia I've ever been to. Just so people who have never been know, it's free to play. It is sponsored by two of Minneapolis's best repertory theaters, Trilon and the Heights, so free tickets. And what makes it special is that I write all the questions alongside a different guest co-host from the film community. So you get a showcase of different perspectives, different film tastes, and it builds a real sense of connection, hence the name Film Friends. I think bonding over movies is a beautiful thing, and that's what my trivia is all about. So yeah, come through.
Right on.
First Monday of every month, Indeed Brewery.
Awesome. Yeah, make sure you check it out. I've always enjoyed going. Thank you again, Naomi. Coming up on Camp Kaiju, we'll have Kai July, obviously in July, and then coming up part 2 of season 5. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Matt, do you want to stick around a little bit later and talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. Should I read the outro right now, or should we save that for later as well?
We could do that later.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Naomi.
Of course. Thank you guys so much. And I'm excited to hear the next batch of picks that you have. And I'd love to be on again. So let me know.
Got it.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
right.
Naomi.
Okay. Have a nice night.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out, friends. Please rate and review wherever you listen. You can also share this podcast with a friend, subscribe to the website, and send us listener comments at campkaiju@gmail.com or on Instagram. Links are in the show notes. If you would like to be a featured voice on the show, leave a voicemail at 612-470-2612, telling us about your favorite monster movies and memories. Please check out our website, campkaijupodcast.com, for more information. Camp Kaiju is recorded in Minneapolis, St. Paul, with Menia's Mailbox music by Ben Cook Feltz. Thanks, friends, and until next time, stay campy. Camp Kaiju is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty, your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients, and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services, follow the Zach Pack on social media, and contact the Zach Pack for investment opportunities. Link in the show notes.
Anything?
Not a hair nor a hide of him. Not a footprint. No.
And what's that, might I ask? I told you I heard the wolves last night. They came and took him when he was making water. When a man is at his most defenseless.